Hello and welcome to the Berkcast, the How to Train a Dragon podcast. I'm your host HC, who's not going to talk about Tomb Raider today, and with me are
Rush, the Predictor 2112.
And Wolf.
and Rush didn't introduce himself in that manner for no reason because today we are about to talk about how we are talking about How to Train a Dragon 3's ending and what we think it's going to be like. Now, yes, I think we all saw the tweet from Dean saying that a trailer should drop in a few months. So we pretty much have a lot of time up until then, but it doesn't mean we can talk about the endings. So we're just going to tell you what we think the ending to the movie would be, and we'll discuss each one. So who wants to go first?
I think I should
I'll
go
let
last.
Well, HC, I guess you can go first then.
Okay. So here's the thing. I had this theory going around from around two and a half years, 2.5 years ago. I wrote it on the film vine. If you want to see it for yourself, you can do that. But let's go over it anyway, because some things change in over 2 years. So let's see. Okay. And Wolf, I may need your help on this one, because if I remember this correctly, it connects to how the final book ends. Because the one basic thing we do know is that Cressida Cowell, the author of the books, said that the movies and the books will share their endings, even though they're pretty much different. Mm-hmm. So, Wolf, if anything here contradicts the books, tell me, and we'll see if we can work this out. Anyway, okay. So, going over what Dean says in interviews, that Hiccup and Toothless will most likely split up by the end of this movie, and because there is a chance that. Right, I'm going over this theory kind of blind here. I can't remember what I wrote. That's how I fell in life. Okay, so Dean said all the time that we are going to find out why dragons aren't around anymore. He says all the time that the ending will be a point where Hiccup is able to stand up on his own, which means no Toothless, which is pretty much his biggest strength. And we are pretty much going to end with the opening line from the first book. There were dragons when I was a boy. And he did also say that there's going to be a dueling storyline and a lot more focus on Toothless. So my idea is, because I heard in the final book, Hiccup and Toothless split up actually pretty early on in the book. I heard that in the end they are together anyways. Possible spoilers here, by the way.
Yeah, we should, before we go any further, spoils for just about anything and everything, potentially, right? So
yeah,
just keep that in mind.
Yeah, keep it in
probably
mind.
should have said that at the beginning.
Guys, I think there are dragons at some point in this franchise.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Impossible.
Wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's a good point to say. We are not claiming to know anything. We're just throwing darts at the air, pretty much. If one of us hits a bullseye, then it's completely luck-based. We don't know anything as much as we want to know something.
Then it's
about
clear
this
that we bribed Dean. I mean that we're lucky.
Mm-hmm. Listen, Dean. I protected Stitch for all my childhood years. Okay, no, that's not how a bribe works. Well, but whatever. So what I think is, unless it's some kind of a brilliant marketing scheme, which it could be, I'm not rolling this out. Why would a director give away the ending to his movie more than 5 years before it's actually released? Because all this information came out in 2014, a bit before How to Train a Dragon 2 went into Blu-ray. or even back when it was still in theaters. I don't remember exactly. But the point is, he told us all of that pretty early on, and unless, like I said, unless it's part of the marketing, you're not going to give away the end of your movie 4 years before it's been released. So my theory is Hiccup and Toothless will not split up at the end of the movie. They're going to split up at the beginning of the movie. Now,
Dun dun dun.
indeed. Now, why do I think this? Well, like I said, Dean already said that there's probably going to be a dueling storyline, which means Hiccup has to worry about his own things, Toothless has to worry about his own things. Both of them are now a chief and the Alpha Dragon, respectively. So both of them have, their own responsibilities to take care of. So that allows Toothless to explore his past, like we were promised, and that will allow Hiccup to come to the point where he stands on his own without Toothless. So that's one thing. That's the one thing. Now, so the only way to do this kind of dueling storyline is if we have both of them split up. And now the other thing I remember, don't quote me on that. I think I heard somewhere that Dean said HTTYD Dragon 3 is going to have like a non-linear storyline, kind of like Memento or any of those other films.
I hope it's not as non-linear as Memento. It's supposed to be a children's
you know what
movie
I
at
mean.
core.
Yeah, no, I don't mean that there's going to be like Memento, but bottom line is it's not going to be linear. So my thought is, if Hiccup and Toothless's breakup, quote unquote, is going to be at the end of the movie, then it may be shown to us at the end of the movie. But what if it's actually chronologically it happens first, and then the rest of the events of the movie happen, which leads to everything I just talked about. So it kind of leads to like a bit like this ending where we see both of them together, grow old together and stuff, because we don't want them to split up. But then again, at the same time, there is going to be some sort of splitting up scene, because like pretty much everyone said, if this is the end all be all movie, then you kind of need to end it with Hiccup losing what he gained, and that will be Toothless, because we saw them building the friendship, we saw their bond survive pretty much everything possible. The only way to end this story in like a definitive, no sequels, no nothing way, is to have the both of them just part ways and each one to go in their separate ways.
Well, that's not the only way.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wolf has the same idea as me.
Like I said,
Probably not, actually.
There's also
Murder. Oh, wait, what?
like just I'm close to being done.
Sorry.
So, like I said, either the movie ends with them splitting up chronologically last, or it ends up with them parting ways at the beginning, chronologically wise, and then reunite at the end of the movie for the one final hurrah. Because we need all the Hiccup stands on his own, Toothless exploring his past, and having this mate apparently, yada yada yada. So these are my thoughts.
Okay. You're wrong, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for the very, very constructive criticism. That's why I do this podcast, Wolf. You always know just what to say.
Absolutely. I could definitely see it, right? About the books, it's as you said, like in the books, if I'm not mistaken, the idea is Hiccup and Toothless are actually together for an extremely long time. Like they don't part in the way you think they part. So it's interesting when you hear like Dean say, "I want to end it in a similar way to the books," but then he only says I want to see the scene of Hiccup standing on the cliffside saying there were dragons when I was a boy. So for me, right, I would say that um the ending we get with the ending where like that ending that Dean wants to talk about, seeing Hiccup standing on the cliffside saying there were dragons when I was a boy. Actually, he doesn't want to end it with something similar to the books. I would say, bleh, starting over. When people hear he wants to end it similar to the books, they think, all right, well, all the dragons need to go away then, right? That there's only one way to end it that the books did, and that's it. But there's a lot you could do with that, I think. And one of the things I think you could do with that is, as you said, the story is supposedly, possibly non-linear, right? Well, why not do what the books did and have two storylines? The first storyline of the books is an older Hiccup looking back on his life, writing all of that down. You only hear from him 2 times in the book, though, at the beginning and at the end, when he's reflecting. So I think the third movie will probably do something similar to that, where you have an older Hiccup standing on the cliffside saying there were dragons when I was a boy, reflecting. You're not actually, I doubt the third movie will show Hiccup and Toothless actually splitting up. If they do, it'll be with Toothless dying, is my opinion. I think that's what they'll probably end up doing, and that's probably the most likely choice and the easiest one to grab onto.
That's a theory I'm going to come.
It's the easiest one to grab onto, but it's definitely not the easiest one to write.
I mean, I don't think I would say it is. I mean, How to Train Your Dragon
canon and insert my own.
I mean, How to Train Your Dragon is, I've said it before, I genuinely do think it's, the first movie starts off as the boy and his ex. And I think the second movie continues that. And I think, ultimately when you end the boy and his ex story, something has to happen to X, in this case, Toothless. Either it leaves or it dies. If you've watched Old Yeller, well, you know how that goes. I mean, so we've not seen a lot of variation on that story where something happens to the boy instead. So it very much could be that Hiccup dies. I don't know. But I think what we'll probably see from the third movie is the beginning of the third movie will probably be an older Hiccup standing on the cliffside saying either were dragons when I was a boy, and then going into a flashback of him with this final story. And we get to see what might have happened to the dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I get what you're saying with the entire, that there's a possibility of Hiccup dying.
But you're just wrong.
But one, it's kind of wrong. And second of all, if we do, again, keep in mind that sentence of a point where Hiccup is able to stand up on his own, I don't think dying is a part of it.
That's very true.
I mean, it's possible.
Guys, you're clearly missing the whole...
I mean, he wants to be like his father.
See, I did say murder. Toothless will murder Hiccup.
Okay,
he wants to be like his father. Toothless, kill me. Plasma blast, go.
Blat.
Seeing how you guys brought it up, I'll just say it now. People have said that if Toothless needs to die in this movie, which I am not supporting at all, and I'm extremely not supporting the
HC for Toothless. That's 2019. I mean,
and I totally not support what I'm going to say here, but there are theories that if Toothless is gonna die in this movie, Hiccup is the one that's going to kill him. And I don't know how to feel about this if it was ever going to happen, because
Old Yeller style. Since Wolf brings it up, there's no reason that that Hiccup would intentionally kill Toothless unless there was something inherently wrong with him.
Going back to the Old Yeller comparison, right? Here's the thing: in Old Yeller, the boy meets the dog, and the dog gives him confidence, right, in himself and what he's capable of, and the dog allows him to help protect and take care of his family. You're talking about Old West. He has to provide. He has to help provide for his family because his father leaves. So, as the dog helps him, he's able to do more for this family and provide more for his family. At first, when he's much younger and his father's still there, he uses the dog as an escape to get away from things, to get away, as an excuse, the same way Hiccup does in the second movie. But when we see the boy's father leave in the film, in the Old Yeller, he's then, all that responsibility is then thrust upon him. He's no longer able to use the dog as an excuse. Now, for him, he can't necessarily leave, because if he leaves, he's leaving his family to fend for themselves, and they'll probably very likely die. He's able to provide for them, so he chooses to stay. Hiccup, he doesn't really have that connection. His father's dead, so now he has to be chief, right? But he doesn't have to be. The only people on Berk he might have a major connection with would be Gobber, Astrid, maybe you could say his friends, and then Valka, but Valka's very clearly someone who's not attached to Berk. I'm sure everyone on Berk would judge Hiccup for leaving, but Gobber probably wouldn't be all that caring about it either. Astrid would definitely be upset with him, but again, he has no very real reason to stay other than he wants to honor the memory of his father, and he wants to do right, because I would say Hiccup chooses to stay not because he has a connection to Berk, but because he feels like he's responsible for his father's death, so he wants to do right by that. So, with all of that in mind, right, where does the point I'm trying to make here is that, in order for Toothless to die, right, or I've lost my point entirely.
All right, that's great.
I had
my
a point.
turn.
It's gone. But I mean,
Rush, go ahead.
Go ahead. Maybe I'll remember in a bit.
But then you'd have to.
That was a
interject.
rambling thought. I'll interject. It's what I do.
Yeah. Anyway, what I was gonna say before we went off this horrible tangent was you guys mentioned a thing that Dean said that this. So we had the first, the first theme of this, or the theme of the first movie, I should say, was, the boy finds his place. Then the second is the coming of age story, and then this third one is being able to stand on his own. Clearly, Hiccup's growing his leg back. Why did you guys not see that?
What about Toothless's tail fin?
No, it's not Toothless being able to fly on his own. It's Hiccup being able to stand on his own.
Okay.
Anyway, but on to realistic. So, there's another thing that you guys kind of didn't bring up that I'm glad you didn't, because I wanted to point out the Steven Spielberg interview where he was crying at the end, reading the end of the script. That can kind of fall into, your guys' theories. Well, not yours, HC, because if they come back together, maybe happy tears, I guess. But if they come back together, I wouldn't be crying happy tears. If they leave or one of them dies, I'd be crying tears. So I don't cry happy tears. I have no joy in my life. No, I'm just kidding.
Good to know.
I have something to say about this. If you need to finish. I'll come back to this in a second.
I'll finish this segment because I have something. Super.
Go ahead. I just wasn't sure.
But
Go ahead.
So you have to think. I think we should have put that into context when we're thinking about our endings, because you have to think, first off, Steven Spielberg, what has he made? So if this made him cry, and he's done things like, crap, I forgot. What's the Schindler's List?
He's done a lot of
stuff.
that.
Sad. He's done sad movies. He's done E.T.
And
But if this script,
yeah.
So basically, if this script made him cry, then it's something I think that's either extremely sad or that still comes back from the freaking grave, and they're a family once again. Obviously, it's not going to be like that.
You have a point here because one of the things I've heard that Stanley Kubrick, one of the greatest directors who ever lived, he always envied Spielberg's ability to make people feel and have those tear-jerking, happy moments at the end of it, at the end of his movies. So the idea that that director that Stanley Kubrick himself praised for giving us those heartfelt moments right from the script, that says a lot.
Mm-hmm. So, what was your point? Was that your point that you were gonna make?
No. I have my film major thing to say about this, but it will finish if you haven't.
No. So that was finishing my Spielberg point. I have a third point, but I really want to save this for sort of the end after everything's said and done.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay. So about what you said with Spielberg crying at the end of the script,
exactly.
That's about script that the director could tell you that he's planning a non-linear story as much as he wants. The scripts, as far as I'm aware, for these movies, are written in chronological order. Like when Dean sits down and writes the script, it goes beginning, middle, end. He doesn't shuffle the scene. The point where you're starting to shuffle in your scenes is at the editing room, and pretty much only then, once you have everything. Again, as far as I'm aware. Or if you're trying, or maybe at storyboarding or something, because I'm talking as a live action person here, not much animation. But the point is, when Dean presented a draft of a script to Spielberg, it was most likely written in chronological order. So my theory is not quite dead that the split up could happen at the beginning.
You don't do that to your viewers. You don't make them cry like that at the very beginning of a damn movie.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. It could happen at the beginning chronologically, but in the script.
Oh, okay, chronologically.
I think we should clarify. When you say split up, like the books have Toothless and Hiccup split up too, but it's not a wanted split up. They're forced to because Toothless is captured and Hiccup ends up, not being able to save him at that point in time. And, from the movie story, we do know that, Toothless is the alpha and Hiccup is the chief. So they're definitely going to be kind of doing their own thing anyways. So when you say split up, do you mean they have zero contact with one another, or that they see each other, they're just not able to have that time to themselves that they used to have?
Or they see each other, but they're passively aggressively just like huffing away. It's like, oh, I don't have time for you. Sass cup.
So, like, which one of those do you think that is? Do you think, like, it's just complete split up, they're absolutely separated, or they know each other exists, they're just not able to have as much time for one another that they used to have?
I think that if this split up is supposed to have the big emotional impact that it's supposed to have, then to me, it's a goodbye forever kind of thing. That they don't really they can't really see each other, they can't really contact each other, and so on and so forth. Because if it's like goodbye for now, but I'll see you every few times, then it's just kind of like, yeah, it's sad, but it's not going all the way. And in this kind of franchise and this kind of movie, it will feel kind of like a cheap way out.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't think that's what they're going to do, personally. Hey, like, are you done? Am I allowed to interrupt now?
Yeah, go. All
right. I would say, like, I said before, right? Like, I think the first movie is going to have Hiccup as an old man at the beginning saying there were dragons when I was a boy, and us going into seeing him flashback, basically, which might mean we'll have flashbacks within flashbacks, by the way, depending on what they do with the movie. But I genuinely think we'll see Hiccup as an old man standing on the cliffside saying there were dragons when I was a boy. And you'll be given this idea that the first two movies were also him kind of having flashbacks and remembering what he went through when he was younger. But I think ultimately, the way the third movie will end with Hiccup and Toothless is Hiccup chooses to give up Toothless. Like, the thing with the books is the main ending, the main idea for the books is, we as humans, we as Vikings or humans weren't ready for dragons, so it was necessary for them to go away, for them to disappear and hide away, to go back into deep slumber, either deep within the ocean or wherever, because we weren't ready to live amongst each other. Like, that was kind of the idea and the theme there. So I think what you'll see is maybe something similar to that, or not, but you will see Hiccup giving up Toothless because genuinely, I think what will happen is Toothless will, that ultimately we'll see Hiccup have to consider the fact of killing the main villain in the third movie, right? The main villain in the third movie is going to be so irredeemable, so far gone that there is no other choice, or that Hiccup is or has taken on more of a role, more of his father than what he realizes, in the fact that he's willing to consider doing that. And you'll see that dilemma from him, but you won't see him do it. You'll see Toothless make that choice for him, and that'll be the decision that makes Hiccup decide, okay, maybe dragons and humans, and maybe Toothless will be completely justified in doing it, and maybe you'll definitely feel that he's completely justified in doing it, but maybe Hiccup will decide that, all right, even though he's justified in doing it, I don't feel comfortable with that, and maybe us, humans and dragons, or Vikings and dragons, can't live together just yet, that we're just not ready for it just yet. So the dragons need to go. They need to disappear for a while until we are ready again.
So, Wolf, one thing that I'm going to defend you is people might bring up the argument of, oh, he killed Calder when he thought he was a dragon. I'm going to put that under self-defense. Since
absolutely, that is a thing.
So that's why I'm defending you there. However, there's just the whole thing. It really annoys me when people say, "Oh, Hiccup is completely against murder." Like, and I read the fanfic, and he's just like super against it. It's like, okay, I don't think my boy is such a weenie like that, or such a pacifist. In some cases,
I get what you're coming from. Like, I think he
grew up in a dragon killing society. He should be used to it. And granted, he doesn't want to do it, but I think it's not that if Toothless kills somebody without making his choice, that's going from he didn't let me make a choice to, okay, dragon should be gone. That's kind of a far stretch. But you did bring up something. You did bring up something with the new villain. The new villain could be so bad to dragons that Hiccup thinks that humans and dragons shouldn't be together because another one of him might come up. So
that's definitely possible. It's talking about the Hiccup as against violence thing. It's worth remembering Hiccup did want to kill a dragon. He just couldn't kill a dragon. No, not wouldn't, couldn't, and then decided wouldn't. But it's not that he didn't want to, because he absolutely did want to. Let's keep that in mind. He was also more than ready to.
Let's also keep in mind, I brought this up before, Riders of Berk, season finale, Hiccup didn't think twice about letting Toothless kill Alvin, just pointed it out there. And I don't think that he's one, that he, lives and dies by a no-kill code.
Yeah, I don't think it's something he's against, but I do think it's something that if there's an alternative way, he wants to try and find it.
Yeah, exactly.
If he has a chance not to kill, he won't. But in terms of Calder, it was really self-defense, and you can argue Calder's own stupidity because, he pretty much he threw a can of a zip of a gas at him, and he caught fire. But then again, he also fell down the cliff. So
remember, Calder said he was a quote unquote dragon, so fire may not have even hurt him. He may be still alive.
Well, not from the cliff fall.
Not from the cliff fall. Unless he can fly.
Yeah,
very possible.
Right, that's exactly. It's like, wait, you said he's a dragon, so fireproof and he has wings.
We just didn't see them.
Yeah. We never, according to Snotlab, we never saw the body hit the water.
Fuck that excuse. Seriously. Everyone keeps using that. And someone Captain No Splash.
Oh my god!
It doesn't mean
Do you remember?
The bottom is
Um,
not dead.
After season 4 on the forum vine, I put who do you think is still alive? And I said, so my vote for Vigo was we never saw the body hit the lava, and I was
Yeah.
actually right on that one. That was funny.
Whose idea was it to boat rest of in hot lava? Anyway.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I
yeah,
guess
but
we get to
we
those
never,
points. Yeah.
but you know why we never saw the body hit the lava? Because he landed on the rock above the lava. God, that's stupid.
Yeah. Um.
Uh,
So this is kind of my last point. And it came up because this is something you guys have both, again, sort of failed to remember. Um, I'm one for keeping, oh crap, what is it? A motif, I think. I can't remember.
mhm.
But so
Yeah,
you say, Wolf, you say at the beginning, there were dragons out when I was a boy. But that's kind of taking from the book. And I feel like Dean wants to do his own thing. He may have that reference in there towards the end. I feel like that'd be a great ending. But you have to realize, what's the one thing that's done at the beginning and ending of both movies so far? This is Burke without the
yeah,
voice crack. But still, that's something that I feel like,
Because that's similar to the books.
yes, but the thing is, if he done it,
I've
if he's
given
done
you.
it for the first two movies, why would he switch it in the third movie? People who don't know the books wouldn't understand. Like, there are dragons on the
Well,
boy, they're leaving. Well, they've already left. What's going on here? I mean, you could say this was Burke. We used to have dragons, and then at least at the beginning, I wanted to open with a this is Burke. It can definitely close with older Hiccup on a cliff saying, "There were dragons when I was a boy." The end. No, I'm just kidding. Or it can end with that. It's like, this is Burke. We used to have dragons, but blah 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 blah. Or it's like, this is Burke. We have charming
but
view of the sunsets. Uh,
to,
but there were dragons when I was a boy. And
oh, go ahead.
well, no, I was just saying, like, end with that, as opposed to like actually legitimately end with that quote. There were dragons when I was a boy.
mhm.
I mean,
Can I interject with something?
go ahead. I'll wait.
Okay. Um, a long time ago, I think, let's see here, it was September 27th, 2014. I actually wrote one-shot fan fiction about Hiccup and Toothless parting ways. Go with it now, shameless plug. And I actually thought about how this ending monologue will be. So here's my take on it. Like, you didn't, this is Burke. Yeah, can I read it? Can I read the monologue thing or just the one part?
How long is it?
Not too long. It will, like, not longer than any of the monologues in the movie.
Proceed.
I said go
Okay.
ahead.
Here's the
Give
thing.
us the full context.
Yeah. Okay. So this is like the ending scene. The Vikings of Berg see the dragon leaving. Hiccup sees Toothless living with a new prosthetic tail he made for him, like in Gift of the Night Fury, as they see them flying away, and you hear this. This is Berg, small, deserted, and has a very bad weather problem. The legends that were told of it are grand and intense. The actual events that these legends were based on are even more so. There were indeed great chiefs, and all Berkians are heroes in their own way. While I can confirm that all the legends and stories were true, I can confirm one thing. When I was a boy, there were dragons. To fit with how the movies did it. Do you think that will work? Like, Wolf, as a fan of the books, if this was the representation of that line, would you be happy?
I mean, I think it's a good line. And to, address what Rush was talking about earlier, I don't think you'll hear a line like that at the beginning. I think what you'll see is when I say you'll
Yeah.
see Hick. No, when I say you'll see Hiccup as an older man at the beginning, I think you'll genuinely see Hiccup as an older man at the beginning, because I think that's his. I think that's I genuinely I have the idea that that's something that Dean wants to do, to give that illusion of looking back on that. that the entire story we've seen so far was Hiccup looking back on or telling the story to kids maybe. And I think you'll see that at the beginning, and you'll see him kind of go into this final flashback of the
That's
final
how I
ending
Met
of
Your
the
Mother.
story. Hmm.
But one thing that I actually think would be
And
great
then
parallel is
at the very end, you'll see him say, there were dragons when I was a boy.
yeah. So one thing that I think would be a great parallel is from the first movie, Hiccup looking over the cliff as the ships go away. In the third movie, Hiccup looking at the same cliff as the dragons go away.
Yeah, that's pretty much the ending I wrote here. That's
I
pretty much
think,
it.
Oops.
And
but I think it's also possible, right, that motifs can be broken, and for good effect as well. It's also it's worth remembering that too.
Yeah, but that's usually like
And I
I don't
think
think
this
he
is
would
one
do that
motif
after
that can be
doing.
broken.
I don't know. Just saying like yeah, definitely not the beginning. I think we agree that saying there were dragons when I was a boy in the beginning kind of just. I mean, it just sets it up to
it,
you know you're gonna be depressed at the end of this, but like
I mean,
keeps okay
if
for
they
other
wanted to go
reasons.
with
Wolf,
the,
you're
there
gonna
was
be.
as a boy, they should have quick thing to say. If they want to go with that, there were dragons when I was a boy. At the beginning, it should have been the beginning of the first movie, not the third one.
Yes,
That's my
exactly. I think that's what I was thinking because then you set up the whole idea that the whole set of movies is a flashback. I mean, like you
true,
can be kind of
true.
fine with saying, oh, I guess so. I guess is that people might argue, hey, is How to Train Your Dragon 1 a flashback? Is How to Train Your Dragon 2 a flashback? But then, um, so if you do that at the beginning of the third movie with old hiccups and then him reminiscing, you kind of get it's like, well, where was this in the other movies? Was this just a recapture? Why is he reminiscing about the third movie? You can then I say skip to the old hiccup at the very end of the movie. You know, he's staring over the cliff and Astrid's like, it's been X years. It's like, yeah, I guess you're right. And then some other conversation there. You know what?
yeah.
Something just occurred to me. They really have to. I see that actually happening. Okay, so not fanfic time, but Uber prediction time. Exactly what I said, except for this is older Hiccup. The dragon's already gone. So, but he's still at the cliff, looking at the edge, and it's like so it's like it's been X years. It's like yeah, I guess it has been, and conversation goes on. She brings up something that I really have wanted to see, but I guess they've been waiting for now because I want to remember what you say right now. So it's like that's something I feel like she has to bring it up at least at some point in this third movie, as well as say it's a trap for Wolf fan service.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Rush, I have one question to ask you about the scenario you just gave up with Hiccup, older Hiccup telling this story. Hicks treated children or grandchildren?
implied but not seen.
No, I'm asking what would you prefer that he told to like their children or grandchildren? What would make you more fuzzy inside, I guess?
That's a good question. Stoic didn't live long enough to see his grandchildren's. So
God damn.
I'm sorry. I think it would be golly, like how long would you I guess if we're gonna go with super old Hiccup, then I'd say grandchildren. Okay, what would make me more fuzzy inside? I don't. Any of them would. But like honestly, I'm just trying to think logically what might happen if they do show them. If it were like it depends on how old you want them to be at this end scene. If you want them to be super old grandchildren, maybe like very young grandchildren or something. But it's like
Well,
if you have Astrid say it's only been 5 years or something like that, then so I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I said, we need them to be old in order to have that magnificent beard that we want them to have also much.
There were dragons when I was a boy. Yes, Grandpa
Yeah.
Hiccup, we know.
There's gold in them there hills.
The dragons would shoot fire from their mouths.
But there's
Birds
one
on
that
Really
high
get that old
cuts.
mining prospector voice. I think we're seeing a common idea here, though, that we all do kind of think we might see an older Hiccup, though, which is interesting because we might not,
Yeah.
you know.
Actually, I
Just
want
give us the
other
beard,
thing.
Dean. That's all we really care about.
But just imagine though that stick with a beard like Stoics. That's gonna look kind of weird.
He would have a hunch purely because the beard is weighing him down.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing how the beard would be on his face, the hunch would be on his belly, not his back, because he would go, man. You know what? I would love to Photoshop that. Oh,
I think there is a
if you're
Photoshop
watching
of
this
that, but
Anyway, what did I want to say? Oh yeah, I probably brought it up a long time ago on this show, but I will bring it up again. Gift of the Night Fury, the ending. Turns out that was the best snuggle tug ever, and that year I gave my best friend a pretty great gift. He gave me a better one, so that was the best snuggle tug ever. And that year, yada yada yada. I think that let's say if someone actually watches this show and takes it to heart as much as we do, I have a feeling this was planned. There's a good chance this is the Hiccup reminiscing about his past thing being hinted at for the first time. I know this is probably this is like a long shot, and it's probably not saying anything because it's a show that most people probably have never seen. But hey, I want to live in a kind of a fantasy that they planned this. They knew.
I'm sure they did. Because Dean did have control of a lot of things back then too, and as he still does. Yeah. The one issue with that is it's only in the short, and it's not in the beginning or ending narration from either the first or second movie. He uses more present tense than past tense, right?
Yeah.
But you could argue that he uses present tense because he's actually writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
Ah ha 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 ha. Reference to the books once again.
Mm-hmm. No.
No, but I mean,
the biggest plot twist of them all. You hear Hiccup's monologue, and you see like something written in a book, and then you find out it's not Hiccup written in the book. It's Toothless, and Toothless is voiced by Jay Baruchel as well, because why not?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, I referenced the
nonchalantly you reacted to that, like it's Toothless all along. Mm-hmm. Sure, whatever.
I reference the books here a lot, but I do agree with Rush, right? That I don't think we're going to see something that's extremely similar to the books, or I don't think Dean is going to take a lot of ideas from the books because he has been doing his own thing for the most part. Like him and Chris Sanders, the first movie was very much vastly different from the first book, and the second movie has nothing to do with any of the books hardly. It's very much namesakes only for the most part. So
yes.
I think the only thing he's going to really take from the books is kind of that ending theme that, there were dragons there were more dragons when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. And also one very important thing that needs clearing up, because when Cressida Cowell says that the books and the movies will share their endings, sharing an ending doesn't mean it's one-to-one the same, because kind of the first example I have on top of my mind is in Spider-Man Homecoming. To those who are fans like me, you might remember, I'm going to come up as such a nerd, but whatever, Amazing Spider-Man number 33. There's a scene where Spider-Man is under like a building, and like a debris, and he can't get out, and like he can't lift it, but then through willpower, he manages to lift it, even though it's really, really heavy. They got that scene into Spider-Man Homecoming, but the entire scenario is different. So you can have the same scenes, but the context, the atmosphere, the everything pretty much could be different. And the reasons for it happening could be different. So just because Cressida Cole said they will share endings, it doesn't mean it's going to be one-to-one. Dean can have his complete control of his, like this different spin on the ending of Book 12, which is Hiccup and Toothless pretty much living happily ever after, and Toothless living every once in a while, as far as I've heard. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely possible, right? Like that we have an ending where Hiccup and Toothless are still together. Like we've not talked about it, but is like does anyone have any ideas on how that could go?
You know, you brought up earlier that maybe the reason the dragons will go away is because as of right now, Vikings and dragons can't live together as of right now because it's always causing a war or something. So what if though the one exception are Hiccup and Toothless, because they are the only Viking and dragon that they're actually more beneficial to each other than harming to each other. And enters 2x dead joke right here to all of you sadistic assholes that are going to bring it up. Rush, but
I just didn't want to interrupt. Anyway. I'm sorry.
I'm kidding you. I'm kind of kidding, but
another idea, another prediction here that cements Hiccup deciding that Vikings and dragons aren't ready to live together. Toothless kills Astrid. No more Hickstrid.
It was well, I picked up my phone to drop it and I accidentally landed. It bounced, it hit a plus, hit an enter, hit a plus, and hit an enter again, as well as a minus, and it sent those to you, HC, on Discord.
Yeah, I just got it. I was about what?
So Rush is 4 against 4 against 4? This idea?
It's minus plus plus. So it seems like Toothless kills Astrid, but she comes back to life, and then she kills Toothless for killing her.
A zombie thing. Even better. Oh yeah, Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, they wish her. Hiccup goes out and collects all of the different. He collects 7 types of dragons to make a wish to the ultimate dragon.
He collects 7 types of Dragon Balls.
Oh boy, I didn't go that far. I didn't go that far.
That's just exactly
you went.
I know I did. But...
This is way off topic now. Back on topic.
You know what? Oh, he needs the 7 types of
no,
dragon.
Stop. Stop.
I'm sorry.
Let's not go there. Dragon Island. All right, Dragon Island is fine.
All right.
But then he has Dragon Eye, and then comes the Dragon Tree. Oh god.
Just want to remind everyone, Rush went there. I didn't. Back on topic. Yeah, How to Train Your Dragon 3 predictions.
I will just say that the best ending will probably be the April Fool's joke I made a year ago, which will almost be actually a year now. So yeah. Call back.
I guess kind of to end us off, because we're getting close to the ending here. Is there any smaller predictions we want to make?
It was also an April Fool's joke, but there was an April Fool's claim that the movie is going to be rated PG-13 and that some characters might not make it to the end. I don't know. I think if PG-13 or not, not all characters making it to the end sound like a possibility, and how. And you know, if one of the characters had to die, which is not like Hiccup to the soul or something, something tell me it will be Snotlout. Not that I want this, I just have a feeling, and not related to the books. Again, it's just like
It's possible.
feeling I have.
I think we all assume the twins are going to go out in some kind of blaze of glory at some point.
Yeah.
Like it suits them.
You know what? Scrap everything. Scrap this entire episode. The only thing that
I can do that.
The only thing I want is that at the end of it all, Tom Hiddleston will show up in his Loki outfit and say, "You have all been Loki'd," and that's it.
He's just live action while the rest of them are all animated.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez. That won't look jarring at all.
Yeah. Totally not.
Any small predictions I would make, looking at everything we've heard up to this point, I've stood by this before. I stand by this now. Drago's cloak is not that important. I think people put way too much emphasis on it being a Night Fury cloak, a Night Fury skin cloak. I don't think it is.
He doesn't even have
Small
it at
prediction.
the end of the second movie.
But a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on it. I don't think there's any emphasis on that cloak whatsoever. It was just a thing that he used that was dragon skin to stand within Dragonfire. It's not made out of Night Fury skin. That is my small prediction for the third movie that I guarantee will be the case. And if I'm wrong, I will never admit it. I will ignore that part of the movie if it actually exists, because it will not exist. I refuse.
What do you got?
Also, Astrid has to say somewhere it's a trap.
Answer is I agree. Anyway, I got all my stuff out. I mean,
you don't have any small prediction you'd like to make about something?
No, they're all large, but it's all stuff that I've said. I mean, we really have the whole, where we really already went over the basically overarching plot, predictions.
Yeah.
Small things, yeah, I kind of agree with you. Drago's cape is absolutely unimportant to the story. We did say that we would somehow get where Drago got the bewildered beast from. Ignoring something, we might actually get an actual reason. But
you know what? You know, I just figured it out. After Hiccup beats both Drago and the new villain, we get the one twist everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see a conclusion to. Mildew was the bad guy all along, and he will be the final.
It's fungus. It's always been fungus. He's controlled everything up to this point. He is the Dark Lord.
Just like Jar Jar is a Sith Lord, people just don't see it.
Mildew was his apprentice, but Mildew failed him, miserably so. Like when you see this new villain, you will see fungus somewhere way back in the background, just standing there plotting, always plotting the downfall of the dragons.
Mm-hmm.
They're stopping him from world conquer. It has always been, and will always be fungus as the Dark Overlord.
Hail, fungus.
The true Sith.
Anyway, I think with that positive mindset, that's for this episode of the Berkcast. We hope you enjoyed. Do you have any ideas about how the Time Dragon 3 might end up like? You can tell us all about it on the comment section here on YouTube. You can tell us all about it on Tumblr, where we are known as Berkcast Team. On Twitter, we are Berkcast with capital B, capital C. And we are all on the Berk forums and the How to Train a Dragon Discord. So until next time, I was HC.
I was Rush the Predictor, 2112.
And I've been Wolf.
And we will talk to you all next time. Take care.
Bye.
Goodbye.